we laugh
Never
at each
a dull
other?
moment.
Why?
Because I'm just pregnant and giddy. And then just, I don't know, your mom's talking about your nickname. And it goes perfectly, actually, with the topic of this conversation. Because she was remembering things that you didn't. Do you know your childhood nickname, according to your mama? Yeah. It's Turtle. Do you know that? Your nickname was Turtle, she was telling me earlier, because you would eat so slowly.
That's what she was saying?
She told me that earlier. She told Chris and I that it goes perfect with this topic. She was saying that you eat so slowly that you'd sit at the table and I'm just laughing because you both have so different. Mothers and daughters are my favorite. I'm the same way with my mom.
I can't.
Yeah,
y'all.
you're Turtle.
I'm sorry. There's so much to say at that point. My brain just went. Woo.
Yeah, she said, I wrote the note. Vanessa ate so slowly they called her Turtle. Okay. Well, you know what? You snack now, so there might have to be something to do with it, and we're bringing it all into food.
I eat a little of everything. I don't eat red meat.
Nope.
I am
no pork.
No pork. I am moderate. I'm a snacker, which I've said I could be better about that. But I don't need to eat the whole bag of chips. I just want a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, Turtle, that there's nothing wrong with eating.
Because don't do that, because I will go off. I will go off.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But I will say, eating slowly is a fabulous trait, though. It is. It's a really good thing to eat your food, examine it, taste, let it swarm around your palate. Break it down. I think too many people, I do that as a fat kid at heart. I'll stand in front of some food. Nobody else will see what I'm doing. And I'm just like shoving it in my mouth instead of just sitting at the table and eating the damn thing. You know what I mean? So, and then I'll have a stomach ache. But yeah. Eating slowly, it's great. I applaud it. I think it's good. But
so if you guys haven't figured it out yet, for our final episode of season 2.
It's our final episode.
Yes,
Woo-woo.
we're talking about food.
Yeah. Very good.
And, all the joys that it brings us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what goes with it. Like emotions and all that and culture. So you growing up, what kind of food did you have at your table?
Right. Okay. So I was born in Manila in the Philippines. And they would always spread out Asian. So it would have, you had your meat, your chicken, your noodles, the rice, always rice. And
for breakfast too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then rice. And then you'd have, your dessert afterward and everything like that. I mean, there was not a lack of food. I am a different one because I guess I was just born a picky eater. I did not like a lot of Filipino food. I get in trouble for that. I mean, I liked certain things, definitely. There are delicacies where I'm like, oh my God, yes. But there's also a lot of dishes where I'm like, oh no. And I remember clearly, and even now when like my family will talk about it, there's some dishes where I'm like, I would not touch. I cannot.
What?
It would just look, well, they had this one, I forget what it's called. It's like a squid, but it's cooked in the black ink. So it looks like a whole bunch of like gross tentacle things in black sauce.
Mm-hmm. Hard pass, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Is it delicious though? They love it.
They'll tell you that. Okay. I'll just go, no, thank you.
Is it like congealed? Or is it like, it's not congealed. It's just the tentacles are out.
Yeah, okay. And I'm visual. So at that point I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then we had a great cook. His name was Mang Jesus. And he, you know how little kids think, little brains like process stuff. So you're running around the house or whatever. You're running in the kitchen and stuff. And he was a very old man by the time I knew him. And he had been a cook for my grandmother and, all this stuff. And we lived in this compound. Anyway, he had one tooth. He just had one tooth right here. And I remember playing it. And, you're little and he's tall and big or however tall
giant.
He was. Yeah. But his one tooth. And he would always be in front of the thing, mixing or whatever. And in my little mind, and I never said it to him, but I remember thinking, all his teeth are in the food. Like I just didn't.
That's funny.
I just didn't. I was like,
because where else would they be?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
did you not like the stuff he cooked because you thought the teeth were in the food? Or
I
were you
mean,
pickier?
sometimes I was just a picky eater,
Yeah.
but sometimes if I looked like at the tentacles one or something that just looked like there was too much going on, it was just doing the most with like a little bit of everything, then I'd just be like, nah, I'm good. And then the thing too about Filipino food, they like a lot of, because, the history of the peoples, they were taken over a lot. The Spanish was there 400 or 500 years, then the Japanese, even Americans. And so they were always given, the dregs of the food, right? The fat, the stuff that you had to put salt to keep, and so it's a lot of heavy salt, a lot of heavy fat, a lot of heavy just, and I don't like that. I just naturally don't like that. And so, like, if they were to serve you pork chop, which they like, and they will have, it's like a dime size worth of actual lean meat, and then 2-3 of the fat.
Interesting.
And then they do the fat with the rice and the whole thing. And I would just sit there and I'm like, I'm not going to eat. So I remember there's so many memories of me just being not eating on the plate. And then of course parents will tell you, well, if you don't eat anything on that plate, you're not going anywhere. You're sitting there until it's done.
Which I think is so wrong.
And I will wait it out. I remember days and days of just, I would just sit at that
Did
table.
they like wrap it up and then put it back in your face when you were
No.
in the morning?
My grandma, yeah, no, they wouldn't be that.
Okay. I've heard stories.
Because I would wait them out and I'd just be like, what the heck?
Just sit there at the table.
Oh, yeah.
Just like look at the...
And I'd watch everybody else play around me or whatever, but I would just
look
sit.
at you.
And I remember that, but I just would not eat that. There were things I would eat, and then there are things I just won't.
Yeah.
And power to my mom and dad and everybody else who didn't, after a certain point, they realized they couldn't force me, and they didn't want to force me necessarily. They just wanted me to eat. Like, okay, what will you eat, please?
Right. Sustain.
And so that was the negotiation. And it was the same deal when vegetables came into play. They were like, you got to eat a green. So if you're not going to eat these greens, what green will you eat? And I believe in that,
Me
because
too.
I think a lot of food issues come from one forcing people to eat. Like if they're not hungry and yet they have a little more on their plate or whatever like that, and you're forcing them to finish it.
You're ungrateful if you don't finish it.
Yeah,
but why you
I
don't
think
need the extra calories in the mind.
That guilt and
It's
that
a
pressure
mind
is not.
fuck, yeah.
It's like, okay, next time don't get that much. Or when they're serving the plate, just be like, no, get this first, and if you want more afterward, then you can put more. But I don't believe in that whole thing.
Force feeding.
Yeah, force feed. And
What it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm grateful for that. So that's where I think my moderation came in terms of portions, let's just say.
Yeah.
But I had no problems with snacks.
Yeah.
And like baked goods and candies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I love it. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Culturally, like, when I'll go into people's homes, especially when I lived in Texas, I went into a Hispanic community's home. Like a lot of Hispanics lived in this one community. And I would always have the abuelas being like, you're not taking our lard away. And I'm like, okay, wait, I'm not taking your food away. I'm not taking your culture away, because to take things out and make it healthier is like taking away from their culture and their eyes. However, I had to educate them on lard. Can we substitute it for different fats as opposed to lard?
And that's a cultural thing.
It is. And they were okay with it, but it didn't take away their culture. It just took away,
but then generally when they
them being in the
all hit
hospital
like
so much.
40 and the diabetes and all the other
Blood pressure, the clogged arteries. Yeah, because Mexico, the UK, and us are the three leading in obesity.
Well, Filipinos too. I mean, they have literally 6 official meals as a country. You have breakfast, lunch, merienda, which is the afternoon snack, dinner. Then you have another snack, and then you have midnight snack or something like that. There's 6 meals.
And everybody eats together. So it's much more of like a gathering and like community bonding
Yes.
of sorts.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that was interesting what you're saying about the heritage of it, of like getting the scraps and having the fat and like bringing that into the culture instead of like the thin, lean meats and things, because that's what their culture was handed to them. So I find that really fascinating.
Right.
I just think there's ways to substitute without taking away the culture. But
well, now that we have more education about food and the ingredients that we use inside of food, for sure.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
And economics plays a massive part, and that's understandable. Yeah.
Economics does entirely. However, in not third world countries, but sometimes I feel like the U.S. can be a third world country when I look at just the poverty going on, the excess wealth, and then the poverty.
Yeah.
But I will say, with the food, people will say, "Oh, McDonald's is cheaper," and I'm like, "No, it's not." So with food, if you want to have gatherings, instead of sitting down and just eating, together, you can actually, go to Costco together, pick some really healthy items that you guys can all pick 2 friends that have families, buy in huge bulk, and then do the meal prep together for the week or 2 weeks ahead, put in the freezer. So that's a way that you can bond together without eating necessarily. It's prepping for your family, and it's a healthy way to bond over food.
Okay, 2 questions came to mind. So the first one is, why isn't McDonald's cheaper?
Oh my God. Because it's not. I'm shocked. A meal now is what, $7.50?
Yeah.
For or
Happy
$8.
Meal?
No, a Happy Meal. I believe it's been a while.
$3.99.
I think it's $5 almost.
Oh, is it?
However, it's a little bit of apples, right? And it's a burger that you get hungry with because it's a sweet bun, and it's crap food that doesn't make you feel good. And then there's a little bit of fries and a drink. But think about it. If you could take that $8, let's say it's, I don't know, we live in LA. So let's say it's $5. But if you could take that $5 and you could put it towards, a bag of vegetables at Costco, or you could put that towards a lot of things. You could put it towards food of all kinds. There's tons of places you can go to. Aldi's really inexpensive.
Yeah.
But it doesn't add up, because after McDonald's, that's one meal of eating out. Then you're going to want to eat again and again and again, as opposed to just sustaining with buying in bulk. And it's not healthy.
Right.
And then you don't feel good.
So
and then you want to take a nap.
bills.
And then you're talking about medical bills. It's crap food. It's not real food. And you shouldn't feed your kids or your dog that even. Sometimes our dog will not even eat the little bit of food that I give her. That's fast food, because sometimes I'll be honest, I'm not hating. I do like McDonald's fries. I do. Thank you, Michael.
Especially when you're on a road trip. I mean, it's all
you
fast
have
food.
to.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's so many windy salads I can have. No, I'm gonna have it. It's still it is good. Even a cheeseburger, sweet buns, but but also the psychology of it, of it's cheaper. No, it's not. If I really were to sit down, I write about it in my book. It really is not cheaper at the end of the day. It's way more expensive. So, but it's the psychology of, okay, that's what we have. Because you look at low income areas, I'm always shocked at how there's no grocery stores in low income areas.
Yeah.
There's bodegas. There's like 7-Elevens that
dollar stores.
Yeah, but there's not fresh produce or even frozen produce.
Well, it's so funny that you should mention that, because we were in Louisiana last summer, and it was in a very rural part, because it was filming in a campground area where they have huge land. It was rural, and so that being said, it only had dollar stores. And
general dollar stores, is that what they call them down there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was the first time for me to see that. I was like, oh, it must be a South thing. And I read an article where there's a lawsuit, I think, or something having to do with dollar stores, because they opened up purposefully in low-income rural areas, because then they can charge these prices that, the population affords that. However, it affects the nutritional value and health of the community, because there is it's all frozen foods, frozen meats, outdated canned foods, all that kind of different stuff. And so they're contributing to, when everyone's looking at the disproportionate advantages of being poor in America and wealthy and all the different things, that's part of the problem. And so the dollar store contributes to the negative health rates and all that kind of different stuff. And you have to kind of look at that, because when we're talking about food, it's about fresh ingredients, right? And everyone makes a whole big hoopla, and you're bougie, you're eating organic. But at the end of the day, it's the, all the meats that are hormones that are pumped into them that, where do you think those hormones go? The end user. That's who's eating the food, know? It wasn't so long ago that now that I've transitioned the baby to milk, I'm looking for organic milk, because I don't want them to, what was it in the early, the 90s and the early 2000s, they were finding that men little boys were getting boobs from the hormones in the milk.
Yep, absolutely.
So they had to,
disgusting.
Look at what was actually being done to clean the milk before it got to the end user.
Yeah.
And all those documentaries started coming out. And so you really do, America has the most, manipulated food?
Overproduced.
Yeah.
It's over excess, and it started.
Well, they've crossed over grains. If you're allergic to one nut, you're allergic to all nuts now because they've crossed, pollinated all of them. Why? What for? But that's what they've done.
Well, cows, I talk about it in my book, but the cows eat grains, not greens anymore. And it started with Nixon coming in and the wartime and thinking, us women aren't allowed to work in, the 70s, God forbid. But they were scared that the men were all going to die and go away, so that they were overproducing. They were overproducing everything. And so they had to make them bigger and bigger and now that there's not a lot of grass, so they put the grains on them, and then they keep these birds in these little cages. And remember how little chickens should be this big. Sometimes I go to the store and chicken breasts will be like huge. And I'm like, that's a chicken on steroids. Like that is not you shouldn't get that much meat out of a chicken. However, going back, organic is amazing. Yeah. However, I would just be happy with people trying to lose weight that can't afford it.
Yeah.
Even frozen, that's okay. But even these general stores don't even offer it. They have the Funyuns in the front. They got the Coke. I see all these kids coming out of it because I spent a lot of time in Kentucky. And I'm just like, of low income, but all kind of demographics. And I'm just like, and then you watch them and they're just like so tired, and it affects everything.
Yeah.
So the awareness and really reading up on this is really important. And then the psychological tendencies behind it, like I'm an emotional eater. You said this about me, that I'm even being pregnant. I have to say no to things. I say yes to things, but it's the game I play with myself because I like have something in me where I can just eat nonstop.
Okay, well, let's get into your history of your relationship with food. Right?
Yeah.
Because you, as you said, you were a fat kid.
Yeah.
You were big, you were bullied because of your weight.
Yeah.
Especially with your dad being who he was and all that stuff. So what was the psychological trauma with all of that, and how did that kind of mess with you now? Like, how does that inform you now? You know what I mean? And because even when you were starting to... You're not fat, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And I remember clarifying that and being like, eat.
I make jokes. Yeah, no, that's true.
Yes.
But I also remember that I have to get the weight off afterward. Like I am eating.
For sure.
Don't get me wrong.
Balance. Yeah.
But I'm going to be really real with you. I'm a little lazy when it comes to hating the treadmill. I don't like I've got a bad knee. So I know getting it off is going to be harder because I'm not that athlete at heart,
and we're also older now.
And we're older. Yeah. But I just know that people are like, oh, I can eat this because I'm pregnant. I'm like, yeah, you can, but you're going to have to get it off at the end of the day. I'm not just going to fit back in my jeans. Mm-hmm. I think I'm a very emotional person. So I love hard. I eat hard. I do everything really passionately, you know? And I also don't trust the food here. Like we were talking about when you guys went to Europe, you lost weight. I go to Europe, the food is processed so differently. It's fresh. Oh, yeah. The flour. I know so many people that Corey from last season, she's allergic to flour in the States. But when she goes to Europe, she can eat the bread. She can eat all of that because it's not so overly processed over there. Yeah. And the vegetables and things. And they got it down. Michael Moore did this great documentary my husband and I were watching about how the kids, how different the school meals are for children.
Oh, 100%. Have you seen the Japanese, school lunches?
God. Or the French. Phenomenal. They looked at the American meals and they were like, what is that? I'm not even touching that. What is that? They were just so disgusted. They're 6 years old, so grossed out. But we're just feeding slop to our children. And then we expect them to want to learn and have energy. And that's just what I'm about. And we talk about energy all the time is that piece of food going to be the value of my energy? Because I have a lot I have to do in life. And if I don't have the energy to show up, I can't risk that. Sorry, that's not worth it. It's kind of like smoking.
Oh,
or drinking, hangovers the next day. I can't afford the hangover. I get to the point in my life, I'm like, I can't afford it, but I would love it, but I can't.
That's a great way of saying that, because I actually pretty much don't drink anymore now because I just can't afford the hangover. I can't be a hot mess, especially with the baby and everything. And funny that you should, not funny, but that you brought up kids and food and stuff, because with Apollo, I'm so proud of how I've kind of done the food.
I'm so proud of you. You're inspiring to me.
Well, I just wanted, because I'm such a picky eater, and I wanted him to be able to be a better eater than I am, you know what I mean? Or Malcolm and I, and also to just kind of I realized that I have the responsibility of setting a fresh palate here, like
That's
doing
dope.
a whole new thing. And when I saw it that way, I was like,
Malcolm's
ooh.
nodding his head over there. It's so true. Yeah.
So what
it's
would,
the best
like,
gift you can give your kids.
Yeah. So with the first 100 foods and, you know, being fit and the energy and the habits, you know, we're informing the habits. I don't want to project bad habits or bad behavior. I want to help support so he can find his own habits and behaviors and likes and dislikes. You know, I want to be able to support that and not kind of put it on him. And that's going to be, you know, that's kind of been fun. The food part has been kind of fun.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I'm like, I won't have condiments with you, but I'm not going to stop you from eating ketchup if that's what you like.
Doesn't do condiments, you guys. I can't.
I was like, you can have that with your dad. Just that me. And that's fine.
Yeah.
When he started, because
a lot of extra sugar and condiments. It's not a bad thing.
That's the thing about the sugars. So I'm a little crazy about the sugars because he turned 1 a few weeks ago. So cute. A lot of energy. You guys, birthdays have taken on a whole new meaning.
You guys are great with birthdays. I really appreciate birthdays. Yeah.
Yeah, I love my birthday, and so
you guys
I was like,
do it up. It's awesome.
But this was a Zoom birthday, obviously, in the time of COVID.
Yeah.
But that was still as much energy. You think it wouldn't have been, but it was.
Right.
And anyway, to celebrate, I was like, oh, your first sugar.
Oh,
and he had, I got him an ice cream cake from Baskin Robbins.
Okay.
And he had it. And
how was that reaction?
Yo.
Like crack? Was he
sugar
just like,
is real. He was like unsure first. He never likes things like right away at first. So he's like, let me check, let me see. And then all of a sudden it was like, I like this. And it was just like in it. So, you know, got him a smash cake because that's a thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then his energy went through the roof. And then the crash was real.
Yeah.
But he was, I mean, it was manic, right? And it was a lot to handle. So now I understand. They were like, do not give that child sugar. Although my mom cannot wait to put it like a brownie in his face.
Really?
Like, just to be like,
really? She just wants this, and she's going to put him to bed, and she's going to deal with him the rest of the day?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cute.
But she's like, I guess that's what grandmothers are for. But I'm like, no, thank you. No.
Yeah. But it's cool, though, because going back to being like watching your children and kids, everything's new.
Yeah.
I feel like we've lost that as adults. Like, I feel like you shouldn't just stuff sugar and food in your mouth. You should really reset your palate and go and not have things for a while, like sugar, maybe a week or 2, and then you can taste them again and really appreciate it, just like a child would. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like he prefers natural foods now versus like if I try to give him something sweet like an applesauce, even if it's a natural applesauce, he doesn't prefer the applesauce. He'll crunch on a fresh, crispy apple.
That's awesome.
But he won't do like the saucy sauce, which I'm happy. I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I even failed at one point. We were on a road trip to Vegas. And I was starving. It was time to feed him. And, you know, in those moments when you have odd days or something, you're just like, okay, let me figure it out. And I never thought I would be the one. But I was.
For what?
And to give him a McDonald's fry. And I was like, oh, my God, it's happening. And so I gave it to him. But you know what? I love it.
I had birthday parties at McDonald's growing up. Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'll happen.
Did he like it?
No. I was like, yes.
Because it was so salty, maybe?
Because it was just nasty.
Oh,
McDonald's
good for
fry.
you.
It was oily. It was processed.
Oh, you didn't like it?
No.
That's amazing.
I've tried even good frozen fish sticks.
Okay.
Not a fan.
Wow.
So he doesn't like that
Way
stuff.
to go.
I know.
I love that.
And I do too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's more work for me. I've done that to myself, but I'm okay with it. Like, I'm just really proud of that. So that's really good.
Yeah. No, it's work, but it's, you're also showing them. It makes me sad when I go in and try to help people and then they're like, my kid needs a diet. And I'm like, no, you all need a family reset because they put their kids on this quote unquote diet because the kid's heavy. And I'm like,
awful.
You're really heavy. Like this should be a family thing.
Yeah.
And like
it's a
you
lifestyle.
said, it takes a little bit more time, but it's so worth it with the pain, the sadness, the energy, all of that. Like, it's just a lot. And then it just triggers that, just moving forward. But yeah. And then social gatherings, I would say to people, out of COVID, people have gained weight and all. That's fine. We've all been really out of control, but moving forward, social gatherings will happen again. I would also say when you go to social gatherings, just be mindful. And I like to eat personally before I go to any social gathering.
I do too.
I don't want to trust the food that's there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be starving. I don't, and then if I am trying to be really good at holiday parties, I'll always hold my purse in one hand or hold a napkin and a water or drink in the other so that I can't just go and
keep
pick food all the time.
That's nice.
Yeah. And especially that's for social gatherings. Yeah. I can't wait till that happens again. I don't know if I'm ever leaving the house with twins.
Don't you just want to go to a busy bar?
So
and just
badly.
kind of be around the buzz of that ambiance.
I'll even be sober.
I don't even need to be. Yeah. I don't even need to drink. I just kind of want to be in the buzz.
Yes.
Of
the energy.
Humanity. Right.
Yes. Any of it. Concerts. That sounds fun.
That sounds great.
Right? Yeah.
But even eating out, as you mentioned that eating out again, I know so many people that just eat out or they just order food in and everything. And you got to be careful with that because, maybe you're so fortunate as to do that, or maybe it's more affordable for you to do it. But you have to be careful of how restaurants think they cook with the sauces and the salts and the oils that come in food that you order. So if you are eating out, where are you eating out? How are you not just going to ordering Domino's and McDonald's and Wendy's and Carl's Jr. because, and not to say that's bad, you can, but not all the time. You have to, there has to be a balance of some just good ingredients in what you're eating.
My mom is huge on this. She's like the thought leader for canola oil being the worst oil ever.
Corn.
So she the
worst
corn,
kind of vegetable because there is no nutritional value to it
canola
whatsoever.
is processed, so it's not a vegetable oil. It's not like a soy oil, a coconut oil. People use it a lot because it burns at a high temp.
Yeah.
But canola is what some people clean their cars out with. This mechanic was like, I clean my car out with canola.
Shut up.
No, and your body doesn't know how to process it. And I really believe we need to start with the oils. That's why I like to eat at home, is because it's in all of our food.
Yes.
Do you know how much you ever go to Sweet Lady Jane? All of those places.
Those cakes are always too sweet.
And you know what? They're very expensive.
Super expensive.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because they use butter.
Oh, there's a stick of butter in every
and not
single...
oil.
Oh, no
but
shit.
Butter's expensive.
Yes, it is because of the milk and the cream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it breaks down and your body knows how to process butter. And that doesn't make you fat. Fat does not make you fat. All these chemicals and sugar.
The keto way.
That shit's making you fat.
Yeah.
And people always think, oh, butter. I'm like, you can have it in moderation. You have a bite or two of cake. It's like the good donuts as opposed to the crackhead donuts on the corner.
Good
with
fats,
the oil.
bad fats. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have a really great processed good donut that's like a cake kind, you're going to eat less of that than you would 12 donuts that's from the shop down the corner.
Well, I
canola
just
oil.
heard a really good definition of what processed is because that's just a term that's always thrown
Yeah, it
around or
is.
something.
Tell me,
and
yeah.
then somebody went, okay, let's just be clear what processed food is. A whole food is something that goes that doesn't go through a process. So say a whole food is
Apple off the tree.
a broccoli, right? But if you get cream of broccoli frozen, it's gone through maybe 2 or 3 processes before it's gone to you, hence processed food. Oscar Mayer wiener hot dogs. I can't even imagine what hot dogs are not.
That's a whole other level. Yeah, because that does not fall from a tree.
Vienna sausages. Come on, everybody. That's not fresh sliced meat at this point. This is all kind of dregs of the leftover of meat after it's been sliced and portioned off into different things and then stuck into an intestinal tube thing and then tied up the ends and made into a hot dog or a sausage or a, processed. How many processes before it got there, God knows.
Exactly.
Plus the salts and the preservatives and the whole
keeps
thing.
it on the shelf longer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because it's about them making money, not about our health.
Right. And that was another thing about me just kind of believing in making my own food for the baby because, and I know it is a matter of time, economics and all that kind of stuff, but I found that just making your own food for the baby was actually more economical, even if it was more of a time investment, right? But if you're doing your own meal preps on Sundays, like you're batch cooking, then you could just add the baby stuff to it anyway.
Gerber stuff's like $2. My girlfriend's telling me $2 a can and stuff like that, like with sugar.
But when I learned that it had shelf life of 2 to 3 years,
out of here, I'm done.
I was like, how is that possible?
I guess it's preserved and it's vegetables, sugars, but it's
high preservatives, high sugars. Even if it says, vegetable puree, it's all the sugars that they've added, the things that they've mixed in and processed to make it last 2 to 3 years on the shelf. I'm like, no, I didn't want to do that. Again, because I wanted the baby too. And no judgment. I understand if that's...
but try to balance it as much as possible with anything. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all it's important. Just for your energy, how you feel. Because I know people are walking around being like, I got to lose this weight. I got to do that. I want to feel better. And I'm like, it all starts with food. It's medicine.
And it's about educating. It's about educating yourself about the food anyway. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then things that you're willing to incorporate in how you want to approach food in your life. And what you want to intake.
Exactly.
That whole thing. And that's always been my bit about it all.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, I've got a lot more. We can talk all day about this. But you know what? It's been a season. So congratulations. If I had a coffee mug, I would cheers you, but I'm not allowed to have coffee. And the next time you'll see us for season 3, I'm gonna lose some pounds in my belly.
We're gonna have like 3 little like kid high chairs right here, and just have the kids with us.
I love it. Can you imagine?
Amazing.
Yeah. You're welcome, everybody, because they're gonna be cute. They're gonna be so cute. But raw talk, not food.
Raw talk, not food.
You ready to go, baby? Woo-hoo. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, Chris is now helping. This has been great. But thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
This has been an awesome season. And just tell us how you feel. What do you want for season 3? Tell us more. Anything you think, any foods you like, any balance you have with kids. Tell us everything. Tell us.